In this video, we're going to take a look at how Bill Gates has gotten richer in retirement. And not just a little bit richer, but how he has doubled his wealth. We will take a look at how Microsoft has had a rebirth, and the types of companies Bill Gates has been personally investing into, from traditional companies to more futuristic ones. We will also take a quick look at a few of the luxuries he has bought along the way, including one of Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks. It has taken Bill Gates 20 years to fully step away from Microsoft. First stepping down as CEO in 2000, stopping day-to-day work in 2008, and then stepping down as chairman of the board in 2014. And recently, in 2020, Bill Gates left the board altogether, also leaving the board of Berkshire Hathaway, allowing him to spend more time working on his foundation. But as Bill Gates has stepped away from the corporate world, his wealth has continued to rise. When he left company management in 2008, his net worth stood at $58 billion. Over the last 12 years, his net worth has nearly doubled, according to Forbes, standing at $106 billion in 2019. And he has sold $35 billion worth of Microsoft shares to fund his foundation. In 2010, Bill Gates owned about 6% of Microsoft. By 2014, it was down to 4%, which made Steve Ballmer the largest shareholder of Microsoft. And by 2020, some reports put Bill Gates' ownership down to 1.36%. This means that his ownership of Microsoft stock is worth around $15 to $17 billion. And that makes up about 15% of his $106 billion net worth in 2019. A lot of tech billionaires have a large part of their net worth tied to the number of shares they hold in the companies they founded and still work in. Think Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg. This makes them highly paper-rich. But for Bill Gates, only 15% of his net worth is tied to Microsoft shares. Being older and having stepped away from the company he founded has allowed him to diversify his wealth away from Microsoft. This gives him greater access to capital to fund his new ventures. Let's first take a look at the rebirth of Microsoft after Bill Gates left, which has led to some of his gains in net worth. And after that, we can take a look at his own personal investments. When Gates moved away from day-to-day operations in 2008, Microsoft's share price was at around $35. But it has since climbed and has seen new heights of over $180. So what has caused this steady growth? For 14 years after Bill Gates stepped down as CEO in 2000, Steve Ballmer was in charge, and the stock price stayed at around the $30 to $35 mark. It wasn't until Satya Nadella took over from Steve Ballmer that the stock price began to rise to the new highs of $180. Nadella moved the company away from its declining personal computing business and towards the next generation and rapidly growing cloud computing space. He grew the cloud division to where it is now, competing for the top spot with Amazon's web services. In 2015, Microsoft's cloud business was making around $6.5 billion a year. For just 1 quarter of the year in 2020, that number is $11.9 billion. The cloud business now makes up 33% of Microsoft's revenue. Nadella would surprise people by announcing partnerships with competitors, including Salesforce and even Amazon, to boost the Azure Cloud, Office apps, and Cortana voice assistant. Immediately after taking charge, Satya Nadella made the decision to exit the competitive smartphone space by writing off the $7.5 billion 2012 purchase of Nokia. This made sure that Microsoft's resources and capital were focused on fast-growing businesses. Nadella also emphasized the need for Microsoft to be a big player in open-source platforms. So under his leadership, Microsoft bought LinkedIn in 2016 for $26 billion and paid $7.5 billion in 2018 for GitHub, which is an open-source software development platform. With the acquisition of LinkedIn, founder Reid Hoffman would later become a board member of Microsoft, bringing his power and connections within Silicon Valley. He had helped Mark Zuckerberg raise his first $500,000 for Facebook. And while working at a venture firm, he invested in Groupon, Dropbox, and Airbnb, to name a few. This gives Microsoft a fresh face when approaching new tech companies in Silicon Valley. As Microsoft adapted to the new tech world and became giants in new industries, Bill Gates himself invested in new tech companies, which look to help move humanity forward. Some areas include environmental sustainability, energy, and hygiene. Bill Gates invested in 2 plant-based lab-grown meat companies, called Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods, recently selling shares in Beyond Meat. There is Ecolab Incorporated, which provides solutions that promote safe food, maintain clean environments, and optimize water and energy use, serving a number of industries in more than 170 countries around the world. Heliogen Incorporated is a secretive startup. The company uses artificial intelligence to align an array of mirrors that reflect sunlight to a target, which creates a source of heat that is about 1/4 of the sun. It can then be used to convert into solar energy used to make steel, cement, and glass. And lastly on the new tech list is Earth Now. This startup plans to launch a fleet of 500 satellites that will provide high-definition live footage of the Earth. Applications include tracking illegal fishing, monitoring the weather, and tracking animal migrations. The majority of Bill Gates' investments are not in new tech. They are in large, more traditional and utility-based companies. Think waste management and construction. But first, let's take a quick look at a few of the luxuries Bill Gates has splurged on along the way. His own house, nicknamed Xanadu 2.0, is worth over $120 million. And in March 2020, Gates and his family added to their real estate portfolio by buying a $43 million oceanfront house near San Diego, which comes with a health spa, theater, and tennis court. There is also the collection of equestrian estates they own, based in California and Florida. One of Bill Gates' more unique purchases was in 1994. When he bought one of Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks called the Codex Leicester, winning the auction at $30.8 million, making it the second most expensive book today. The 72-page notebook, written between 1506 and 1510, contains sketches, ideas, and diagrams on subjects such as mechanics, botany, and architecture. The main subject of the notebook is on his observations of the movement of water, which led to ideas on bridge construction. Throughout the notebook, you can see Da Vinci's thought process, trying to understand something by observing it closely, taking down notes, and then developing ideas and understanding. Bill Gates says that this way of thinking is a lost art these days. After Bill Gates bought the notebook, he had the pages scanned, which can now be viewed online. Coming back to Bill Gates' investments and his wealth, one thing to note is that his own investments are run through a company called Cascade Investment. But there is also the separate Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, whose goal is to better healthcare and reduce poverty. And in the US, it looks to better education. The foundation itself has its own investment portfolio, and it is more publicly viewable, while Cascade's portfolio is more private and secretive. But both are managed by the same person, Michael Larson. Occasionally, investment shares acquired by Cascade are reported to the SEC. These reports show overlap between the investments made by the foundation and Cascade Investment. There is also cross-selling and transfers of stocks between the foundation and Cascade. Experts use the information from the foundation to gain an insight into the investment philosophy of Bill Gates' personal holdings in Cascade. A number of the foundation's investments are big stakes in diverse companies. Companies that are industry leaders and have a stable dividend providing a solid income. Some of these companies are Waste Management Incorporated, which is North America's largest waste management company with over 20 million customers. And as of 2018, the foundation had about $1.7 billion worth of shares. There is Caterpillar Incorporated, the world's largest construction equipment manufacturer, with another $1.7 billion worth of shares owned by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in 2018. The foundation also has $1.5 billion worth of shares in Canadian National Railway as of 2018. Other well-known companies which fall under the same strategy of investing in solid industry leaders with a stable dividend history include Walmart with about $1 billion worth of shares owned, UPS with about $500 million worth of shares, and FedEx with $700 million worth of shares in 2018. Through Cascade Investment, Bill Gates has a number of stakes in hotels, from the Ritz-Carlton to owning close to 50% of the Four Seasons, which has 74 hotels in 31 countries. One company that both Cascade and the Foundation both have large stakes in is Berkshire Hathaway, with over 50% of the portfolio invested in Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. It is clear that the focus of the Foundation's investments is on long-term capital gains, as Berkshire Hathaway has never paid a dividend. Warren Buffett is a buy and hold investor who only believes in taking long-term positions in companies, which now includes taking large stakes in technology firms. The largest position by value that Berkshire Hathaway has is in Apple, making up about 30% of Berkshire's portfolio. They also have a large stake in Amazon as well. If one of your closest friends is Warren Buffett, who is one of the best investors in the world and a person that sits alongside you on the top 5 richest people list, then it would be hard not to get wealthier with a friend like that. Even more so if you had a working relationship, as Mr. Gates did by being a board member of Berkshire Hathaway for 14 years, getting a close-up view of how Warren Buffett invests and grows his own fortune. Bill Gates is following a layered approach with his investments. At the core lies his trust in Warren Buffett in making safe, long-term bets in companies that weather any future downturns. The second layer is made up of large, recognized global industry leaders that can provide a stable and safe dividend while increasing in value. And the last layer is made of Bill Gates' bets on new and promising technologies, which make the planet cleaner and more sustainable. On the next episode of the Grand Stock Exchange Society, we take a look at Elon Musk and how Tesla's business is really in batteries. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe button to not miss a video.